I don't know if I would call myself a member. I just wanted to read the newsletter. I said I had to pay for it. There's a lot of people here today. Great turnout. You must not have heard that I was demonstrating. So I think Bruce forgot to mention, this is the only event that you really need to put on your calendar this year. I believe at least half of you have been to this event. This is going to be our third year, the Noll Putnam Memorial Hammer-In, and Jennifer Petrilla is coming down from New England to demo. I saw her at Abana this year and was just blown away. She's very entertaining, very fun to watch, keeps her demos very exciting, and she's very, very skilled in colonial ironwork. And we're going to have some surprise demonstrations too. I'm going to tap some people on the shoulder to do some little filler, like 1-hour demos while Jennifer takes a break. Also this year we're going to start on Friday. So I'm going to make it a longer event because people are already camping. We're going to start demonstrations at noon on Friday, and then we're going to have demos all day Saturday. People are welcome to camp Friday and Saturday night, no problem. So also there's a KOA campground that's across the road. So if you want to stay in a cabin and you book it now, you can rent a cabin and walk to the event from the KOA. I'll pass these around. All right. Before I get into the demo, are you recording? I'll stop recording so I can make some comments off the record. No, just before I get into the demo, I thought, if I brought enough show and tell items, then if my demo bombed, you guys would still be entertained. So I got a lot of show and tell items here. I'm just going to run through those, and then I'll start with the demo. The first thing is books. I watched a little bit of Andy Height's demo from, was that last month? Yeah. And he brought some books, so I thought that's a great idea. There's a couple scrapbooks here that during lunch people are welcome to look through these. So the first thing I grabbed, these are probably the 4 books that in the last 2 to 3 years I have pulled off the shelf more than any other book. And that's how I grabbed these. This one is The Nature and Art of Workmanship by David Pye. This is not a blacksmithing book. It's a philosophy book for craftsmen and artists. It's got a lot of great quotes in it. And this was actually Noll Putnam's copy. I was able to go through his library after he passed and look for books. And I went and looked for the books that had things highlighted and underlined. And this one, he had underlined an awful lot. So really appreciate this book. A lot of my style of work is very German influenced, and Fritz Kuhn, this book, there's multiple books on Fritz Kuhn's work, but I really like this one. And it is available, and if you flip through here, you should see some similarities to my style or vice versa. I did an interview with Noll Putnam, which you can listen to on YouTube. I think there might be 1 half-hour segment that I haven't released yet, but in that interview, I asked him what his favorite books were, and he named 3. This was one of the 3. It's one of my favorite books as well. It's just incredible, very stimulating to the imagination, and really good drawings and photographs in here from Schmierler. And he has other books as well. This one might surprise you, but Thomas Wilson's Ironwork Notebooks. If somebody wants me to make something and I am just totally stumped, I don't have any inspiration, I'll just flip to the section in here on whatever it is they want me to make, and there's tons and tons of ideas and drawings. You can look up candlesticks, and there's 100 sketches of different types of candlesticks. So lots of inspiration in here. I thought maybe I would go back to when I first started blacksmithing and talk about the 2 books that I started with. I started blacksmithing when I was basically 13 years old, and I saved up some money and wanted to buy a blacksmithing book because the library had Foxfire 5. That's about all that I could read about blacksmithing. So I don't remember, it might have been a bladesmithing catalog that I found, and found some blacksmithing books, and I ordered this book, which many of you recognize. And this was the only blacksmithing book that I had for probably 10 years. And I really learned a lot just digging in here. There's a lot of bad information in here, but there's also a lot of good information. And just thought that would provide some context of where I've come from. And when in 2002 and 2003, I was a volunteer interpreter at the Frontier Culture Museum. And the Frontier Culture Museum has a marvelous library that's available only to their museum interpreters to do research. And while I was there, Russ Stallings, I don't know if any of you remember Russ Stallings, he was the head blacksmith in the early 2000s at the museum. He encouraged me to go in and study in the library. And I would spend hours and hours in there reading their marvelous selection of blacksmithing books. And this was my favorite. This book is a little bit harder to find. You can sometimes find it on eBay, but I thought I would bring this and let you guys flip through it. It's called To Draw, Upset, and Weld. And it's very colonial focused. A lot of good photographs in here. And I'll give you a quote. Most of you know I bought Noel Putnam's blacksmith shop, the tools. And he told me after that, he said, Drew, you probably should, you don't need to buy any more tools. You've got all the tools that I've had. You don't need to buy any more tools, but you should buy books because books are tools. And I took that to heart, and I've really focused over the last couple years to fill up a library of blacksmithing books. And I reference them every day. So if you think of books as tools for your business or your hobby, I think they're always a wise investment. I thought I would bring 3 books that maybe you guys haven't seen or heard of. These are 3 of my favorites. And most people have never seen them before. The first one is, this is a newer book, The Chesapeake House. If you're into colonial Virginia, colonial ironwork and architecture, this is an excellent book. I believe Ken Schwartz may have had something to do with some of the research in this book from Williamsburg, and this has some really niche and obscure information on forging hardware for Virginia architecture. And there's some photographs of old nails and old hardware pieces from Virginia estates. You're welcome to look at this. This is the Wallace Nutting Furniture Treasury, and this is a furniture book. It's got antique furniture in it. I found this at the Verona Antique Mall for $8, and I was flipping through it, and in the back, this book is so thick, there's a chapter in the back on ironwork that is big enough to be its own book, and it's got a lot of photos. Wallace Nutting was an early 20th century antique collector, and he was controversial. I've heard that he would pay blacksmiths and woodworkers to make fake antiques for his collection. I don't know if that's true or not. So I had Ken Schwartz look at this book with me, and he's like, yeah, I've heard some of those old iron photographs are actually reproductions, but there's a lot of cool ideas in there, and I bookmarked the iron section in the back. You're welcome to flip through that. There are photographs in there that are not in the Sorber collection or any of the other ironwork collecting books. This is the International Correspondence School. I'm not old enough to know what that is, but I hear it was a corresponding, through the mail school that you could take for different classes. And they had a library of hundreds of these textbooks on all different subjects. This one is the Casting, Brass Founding, Blacksmithing, and Forging book. And there are some really, really neat photographs and drawings of blacksmith shop tools, forge designs, gas forge designs, power hammer designs. This is a really cool book to look through. Helve hammers and treadle hammers, things like that. And I've noticed a lot of the things that we think are new in terms of blacksmith hammer design, or really just reimagining some of these older designs. So that's the books. Just so you guys know what I'm working on right now in the shop, this is a gate project, and it's a garden gate. It's 5 feet wide, 6 feet tall, and I thought you guys might enjoy seeing that. You can pass that around. These are some leaves that are going to go in the gate. They're very simple. I'm not putting a lot of, there's not a lot of intricate detail in this gate. It's more about the form and the design on a large scale. And there's kind of a flame-shaped leaf that I really like. All this is done on a power hammer. And behind me, you can see this is one of the leaves. It's going to go in the gate. And part of my process in designing the gate is I take a photograph of the space where the gate's going to go, the fence. Blow that photograph up. I put tracing paper over it, and I draw the gate in place onto the photograph. Then I take that, go to my layout table, which is 5 by 10 foot layout table, and I draw a grid on it in 6-inch squares and transfer an image that size to the grid in full scale. And then I just build the pieces to the layout table. So this piece here matches one of the lines. If you look hard enough, you could probably figure out which leaf on the drawing this leaf is. There's probably 2 on there that would fit the bill, but I brought some show and tell pieces. There's a colonial style candle stand. That's the only 3-way colonial candle stand in existence that I'm aware of. Most of them are 2-sided. And I thought I would try something unique. That was a lot of fun.
And those are height adjustable too, correct?
Yeah, so this, I think I did this in 2022. It slides up and down like that. These were pretty common in colonial times, but they were usually taller. They were usually, 5-6 feet tall, and you'd set it by your reading chair and adjust the height of it. But they were always 2-sided, never 3. Now, I even took this to Williamsburg and asked the guys, "Hey, have you seen a 3-sided one?" And they'd never heard of us or seen one. But it's really simple. All you do is make a tripod like the legs. You just do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And the one in the middle has got a right angle bend in it. Here's a little heart-shaped trivet, nothing special, but just kind of showcases some of my stuff. This is an older piece. Couple little dogwood flowers.
Valentine's is coming.
Yeah, Valentine's is coming. Well, that's my wife's. That's from a Valentine's Day a long, long time ago. A client asked me to do a leaf. Noel Putnam had actually forged a leaf, a giant leaf, bigger than this, about maybe 3 times the size. And it was at his funeral service. Somebody brought it to show off. And a good friend of Noel's tried to buy it off the lady. He offered her like $5,000 for this sculpture. She said, no, I'm not going to sell it. So he came to me and he said, would you make a leaf like that? I said, well, I'm not going to copy Noel's leaf or anything, but I will make a leaf in my style. So he paid me to make this leaf, and I got it photographed at a studio, and it's been sitting in my shop for a month, and I'm waiting on him to drive down and pick it up. But it's a scarlet oak leaf, and I made a paper template, used masking tape, and taped stiff wire, bendable wire to the paper, and then I put a lead weight on the bottom of the piece of paper, and I was able to bend the wire and paper to shape the sculpture and figure out where I needed to add or take away material and get the shape correct. And then once I had the template the way I wanted it, I laid it out and was able to cut it out of steel. One thing I learned from this project is you need to add about an inch, minimum of an inch of width, because you have this crease here will shrink it side to side. So something to keep in mind if you ever try something like that. This is a trivet I made for Spring Fling last year. They had a trivet competition, and I think it was last year. Yeah, 2024. I was inspired by Kim Thomas's fireplace screens. that he did with the hearts. He actually had one at the sofa 2 years ago. And so I watched his YouTube videos on how to forge these hearts. And it was very tricky to do in 3/16 square, I will say that. It would have been a lot easier with a larger stock. I had to make 2 of these. This was my second one because the first one was a mistake. Pass that around. So the story on these grills down at the bottom, last year at the Selmer Iron Works event in Maryland, that Fred Christ is going to do next week. I was asked to do the demo, and this was my demo piece. But what I did is I had made this before the event, took it up with me, and I was going to try to make it. I had some components already forged, but we didn't get it finished. And they were going to auction it off, and by the end of the day, I still had a couple hours of work left. So I took all the components home, finished them, and that is the actual demonstration piece that I did at the event. And it's going to be up there to be auctioned off next weekend. So if anybody wants to own this piece, you can drive to Maryland and bid on it in the auction. And if I know anything about blacksmith auctions, it will probably go for $50. So, but there's about 12 hours of work in this. This is a Noll Putnam style leaf, directly copied from Noll Putnam, so I give him credit every time I do this. He said that I could. I asked his permission. The rest of it is of my own design, mortise and tenons, and this is just a wall hanging, just hanging on the wall. I call it breaking free, fancy art name, you know, flowers coming out. So. All right, another cool show and tell item here. Long story, but I won't get into that. I got a hold of this leaf. This was a Joshua Greenwood leaf. Found it at a yard sale. And there's a whole story I won't go into, but I have tried to forge this a couple times, was not very successful, and Dale Morse said, "Oh, I know how to do that." He had done it in Europe back when he was, you know, training as a blacksmith, and so I spent some time with Dale yesterday at VIB, and he showed me how to forge it, and this was the one that he forged. So I thought you guys might be interested. The whole thing is done with a sharp chisel, a fuller, a large teardrop punch, and a 90-degree sharp corner punch. So it's like a chisel, but it's at a perfect 90 degrees. And I have a video that I took that I may or may not edit and put on YouTube. But I thought this would be fun for you guys to see. There's another example of the Noll Putnam style leaf. This is actually one made by Noll that was a cast off from the National Cathedral gates that he forged, and he used these to make large flowers. This is a flower that I made on a much smaller scale that's in the similar style. All right, so what I'm going to be doing today, I had a customer come to me and they wanted 3 sections of railing to go around a basement stairwell. So it's a brand new home construction, and on the first floor there's a wall like this, and there's the basement stairwell goes down. So they needed a 4-foot long panel for the end and 2 5-foot long panels on the side. And they told me their budget, and I said, well, we can't really do all that you want to do for your budget. So what I decided to do is just do a small section of the center of the 2 long panels that was decorative floral elements, but then the main field around that would just be straight 5/8 balusters. It's all going to be forged. All the balusters are mortise and tenon, but we're going to have about a 24-inch section that's floral. There'll be 2 of those. And so I asked her what she wanted, and she's a horticulturalist, and she said she wanted grass. And specifically, she wanted Indian grass. And I said, well, we had a lot of conversations about how I would stylize things. I'm not going to make actual Indian grass, but I can, try to get the impression of Indian grass. And I charged her to make samples and made a couple different samples. The thing about Indian grass is it has long grass blades, traditional shaped grass blades, but then it has this tuft of, it's a flower, it's a grass flower on top where the seeds are that looks kind of like a foxtail. And I took some photographs of Indian grass, and depending on how the wind's blowing, gives it a different profile. So this is what I came up with for that kind of foxtail shape on the top. And if the wind's blowing and all the seeds are going in one direction, then it looks something like that. So I came up with this specifically for this project. And so I thought I would show you guys how I forged this one, and that's going to be our demo today. This one got rained on this morning because I left it in the back of the truck. I'll hang on to this for now. I made a storyboard just to illustrate. If anybody wants to come up and take a picture of it later, you're welcome to. This sleeve here, I usually do a lot of larger work. I prefer to work in large stock, but since I heard I was going to be demoing here, I decided to use much smaller stock. So we're going to start with 1 inch round. That was supposed to be a joke. All right. So start with 1 inch round, a lot longer piece. I usually start with about 12 inches or so. This is just to illustrate the diameter size. And then we're going to start a taper. We're going to get to this square taper like this. Now, I thought I would illustrate how I start the taper on the power hammer. If you can see here, I actually start with my hammer back away from the tip. And the reason I do that, I'm sure some of you guys know. Anybody know why?
Fish mouth.
Fish mouth, that's right. So if you start with your power hammer half-face blows on the tip, you're going to roll the material out and create a fish mouth. If you start back here and you want to make sure you have good penetration on your heat, then it will actually bulge from the center out. Once that starts, then you can go back and do your taper. Then I go to something like this. This is heat, so I can actually get to this in the first heat, and second heat, just bring that taper back. This is my third heat. This will probably be heat number 10 today, because talking. And then this is the shape we get to. Now I don't put too sharp of a shoulder here on these. Just a real simple shape. A lot of learning to move metal and learning blacksmithing is volume control. And when I'm doing this, I'm just thinking in my head, how much volume do I need? It's like if you have clay, a little bit of clay here, a little bit of clay there. So this is a study in volume control. Then I go in and take it from this to this. And that is simply just using a fuller or a rounded power hammer die, going in from the side and spreading it out to one side. I'm a little nervous about getting this power hammer to do this, but we're going to make it work. And if it doesn't, I'll do it by hand. And then we go to this. This is the last step before here. I use a number of punches. Not that one. So, is that the right one? Nope. Well, the other one's in my tongs over there, but this is a long teardrop punch. And that's what you use to go on the side there. And then I really wanted to have this vine turn into a vein that goes up the spine of this grass or leaf. You can call it a leaf if you want, like this one. And you can do that by hand with a hand hammer if you're careful. But I made this punch to help accentuate that. And basically, you just start back here on the treadle hammer and work your way up. And I do that with the double-sided one too, to bring that spine up the middle. The problem with that, the problem with this, is that you end up with two fullers on the side of your spine. So how do you take care of the fullers? I made this little guy. This just for the, I just used the treadle hammer. And if you see on this piece, you see the fuller right there that's created right there from that other tool. Well, you can take a flatter, it's basically a radius flatter, and you just kind of ride that spine up and push that fuller out. And I'll draw that so it's easier to see. So after I power hammer forge it, the cross section of this thing basically looks like that. All right, if you were to look from the end view, sawn in half, right? Now you can go in by hand, and you can round that with a hand hammer. You can get that rounded, and you might even be able on your power hammer with a radius die. You might even be able to get it to look like a hollow ground knife. All right. And I can do that all on the power hammer. But to really isolate that, I needed that punch. I'll just pass this one around. I hope those aren't being shoved into backpacks when they get to the back.
Nothing's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So the that punch will go in and do this, right? Let's see. But then you end up with this fuller right here. Can you see that? It's kind of hard to see. Maybe I should draw it bigger. All right, there's a blown up, okay? So then what I do is I take this flatter, and the edge of the flatter can ride along this spine, and you're basically gonna flatten that out like that.
And you do that before the teardrops?
Yes. So that is something that happens before the teardrops go in. Yeah, so I'll pretend this is a treadle hammer. I usually do this on a treadle hammer, and I'm holding this with tongs, right? And then hold it like this, okay? And you just slide it along there. One thing about the flatter, it's easier to do this if the flatter is more like a soft butcher, if it's got a slight angle on it. I think you guys understand what I'm talking about. But if your flatter looks, and that's even too much angle, that's actually too much angle. If your flatter looks like that, you can see this is higher than this. Then you use the point to follow that fuller, and it's easier to get the material to move out. But the problem with that is when you're doing this leaf, is that you don't want to have to stand like this when you do the other side of the leaf. So you actually have to make two of these because these things are crooked. This one, this is just a flat one. So I'm going to use the flat one today. But it's a lot easier if you have matching sets that go opposite directions. A lot of people have asked me about two things with this. First one is, do I pre-curve it or curve it the opposite way, because if when you put these punches in here, it wants to curve the wrong direction. And the answer to that is no. With the double-sided one, I would do 3 or 4, however many teardrops I can get in one heat on one side. The next heat I go to the other side, and I go back and forth. And it just kind of pushes itself back and forth. With the single one, I personally think it's easier to just keep it straight as I put them in. So I'll do 3 to 4 teardrops, take it back to the anvil, tap, 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 straighten it back out, and just go back and forth. There's no way really, I mean, unless I was doing a batch of these and I had time to work out how much to pre-bend it, it's just consistent and easy to just keep it straight as I go. So that's how I do it. But that doesn't mean it's the right way, it's just the way I did it. Yeah, I'm keeping it straight like this as I put all the teardrops in. And it's pushing it, it keeps pushing it that way, and I just keep straightening back out. And then once I'm done, I curve it. Now, one of the benefits of that, there's an added, it could be a negative, could be a benefit, but it's a feature of waiting to bend it, is that it tightens up these little mouths here. So you can actually, the more I curve that, the tighter the edge of that teardrop gets. So that you may or may not like that. The other thing, when you're thinking about this forging process, notice that this is just centered. The vine is just centered to the leaf. I didn't attempt to offset it or anything like that. I mean, I could have, but when I went in there and forged it, I was able to get it offset. And it's a combination of 3 different things. One is the power hammer's pulling in one direction, okay? 2 is that I'll set this on the anvil like this, take a rounding hammer and just tap, tap, tap right there. It doesn't take much to bring that into alignment. And 3, when you get in here with your teardrop punch and you're punching right here, it's actually pushing material that way. And it's lining that spine up even more. So there's 3 things that are helping to move that spine into this alignment on the side. And you're starting with a centered shoulder. Well, let's heat some metal. I thought I'd talk a lot to, get it out of the way, because this is going to be loud and you're not going to be able to hear me talk. Forge master. Where's the forge master? I'm not allowed to start the forge because I don't know what I'm doing.
So you use propane or coal for a lot of this?
I do most of my work in coal, but I have an NC tool forge just like these, and there's some things that I use it for. I'm going to pass another punch around if you guys want to see. When those tools and things that I pass get around, if you guys could set them maybe on the corner of this table. Yeah, great. Those can stay there, that's fine. If you guys want to take a nap, we got to wait for the forge to get hot, so take a nap. No, it'll work. Oh, probably. They'd like that, wouldn't they? Thank you. All right, while we're waiting on that, does anybody have any questions for me? Any questions?
That's right. I'll feel better for that.
There's sticky notes in fact for the blacksmithing part. What's that?
Do I need a hand with anything?
I don't think it is possible that I'll need somebody to strike. If it depends on how the machines work, but
Just let me know.
okay, you'll be my man.
I have only done it like once or twice.
Well, while we're waiting on the heat, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to know anything. Can't promise I know the answer, but about my work or my business or the type of stuff I do.
How much time is on the, before you even touch the metal? The notion you mentioned about drawing and for just putting a layout table and everything like that, how much time, what percentage is done before you even touch the metal?
Well, I guess that depends on the project, but I mean, some projects I've spent a week's worth of time to prep. So one of the things, I don't know if this is loud enough. It's loud enough? Okay. All right. One of the things that I do is I spend a lot of time pre-qualifying my customers to make sure that we're the right fit. And I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I have long conversations with clients and spend a lot of time on the sales end. So, you know, I might spend a 1-hour call followed by emails, text message, pictures back and forth to figure out what the client needs. Then I like to do sketches on paper and sketches in iron, and I charge for those. So, you know, this last job, the railing job, I charged $200 to do some simple sketches to the client, and I charged them $300 to come up with some iron samples like this. And the arrangement, the agreement that I have is that I get to keep the drawings, I keep the iron samples, and they get the peace of mind that they can see a sample before they make up their mind, make a decision, regardless of whether they have me do their job. After all that, I give a quote, tell them how much the job's going to be. So, you know, I can spend a couple days getting ready just to quote the job. And then I'll have to transfer the drawing to the table and get my materials together, things like that. That answer your question?
How do people seek you out? Word of mouth?
Yeah, most of my jobs have been referrals and word of mouth. Tom back here was generous to refer my name to somebody, and I got a call last week from a guy that Noel used to do work for about a set of gates, and most of my jobs are friends of people I've already done work for. You know, I did one job 10 years ago that I've gotten 5 other customers from. So I don't have to advertise a whole lot, but I do advertise on social media.
So it's not production that you do for the most
No,
part?
everything I do is different. If I have to make 2 of the same thing, it drives me
So
crazy.
as far as your business, you are client driven as opposed to
Correct.
making the same game?
Yeah, client driven, custom jobs. That's what I prefer. Yeah.
Are there any jobs you stay away from?
Yeah, I won't make a sword. I won't work. I decided at the recommendation of a few people that I won't work through an architect. I will work with an architect, but I have to be able to talk to the client. I actually just turned down a really nice job because the architect would not let me talk to the homeowners. And, I told him, I said, well, that's fine, but we could make this so much better if we could talk through what the homeowners want. But they were paying him so much money, so they didn't have to talk to me. And yeah, there was a veil there. Don't go beyond the veil, and I don't want to do that. But other than that, I mean, if I can fit it in the doors of the shop, I'll try it. Yeah.
You have a roll-up door.
Yeah, I got a roll-up door. Yeah. I just got a lead on a public installation park sculpture, so I'm hoping that comes to fruition. That'll be fun.
Tell about your YouTube interview series you've been doing. Like the Nolan and
Yeah. If you're interested, I have a YouTube channel. I haven't published on it in 6 months, but I really love to do interviews with other blacksmiths and I try to do mostly older blacksmiths that are phasing out. And there's 5 or 6 really good interviews on there. I mean, there's several with Noel Putnam. There's one with Joe Sitton from the Plains, Virginia. I have an interview with Dale Morse at VIB. I have an interview with Peter Renzetti, Glenn Orr from West Virginia. And I have a lot of people on a kind of a waiting list to do that, but they're great interviews because I'm not talking. I sit there and hold the microphone and let them talk, and they tell their story. I ask a few questions. So it's on YouTube. Check it out. What's that?
Is it under your name?
Yeah, it's just my name. Yep. It's I believe it's at Drew.Alexander. If you type my name in and then put blacksmithing, it'll pop up. Yep. Hey, we got some heat. I'm gonna wear some earmuffs. All right. I will have to stop at some point, change the dies out, but we're gonna start with these. Smells like Michelin Tire Shop now. This is the first time I've used one of these. Other than like 30 seconds of playing on one.
Those that may not be familiar, this machine was built using Clay Spencer's design, built by David Custer in Columbia, Kentucky.
David Custer made this one? Yeah. Yeah, it's the Clay Spencer tire hammer design.
Yeah, we tweaked it with Alan Kress.
Yeah. So this was a Alan Kress class hammer?
No, but
He came and
for
helped.
a demonstration. He
Okay.
tweaked the hammer to get more strength.
Okay.
able to get a whole more inch of movement.
The only thing I don't like about this is it's a little bit harder to get those softer blows, but otherwise it's pretty cool. I think I'm going to take my sweater off. Warm. All right, so got our square taper started.
Quick question.
Yep.
Do you have those drilled? Is that just for storage or is that?
I made a ring that I can hang them on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. All right. It's interesting, you can see the difference in talking about edge geometry of power hammer dies and tooling, where look at the difference in the radius on these dies is pretty sharp. So not a problem, but I'm going to go in by hand now and clean that up.
What are you and your brothers doing here at the open house?
The open house, we are probably just going to do one in the fall. Yeah. Do you want to strike for me? You have a striking hammer? I'm going to use Jesse's help to smooth the taper out a little bit. He won't need a real big one because we're just smoothing it out. Let's do alternating, and we're just taking the bumps out. All right. A little lighter. Let me just go here. that's good.
We have a small flatter if you want.
Yeah. Really getting in a workout. All right, so I got that first taper rounded, and now I'm going to come back in here and draw this neck down. Yeah, I'll try that thing again.
Couldn't you have,
Might actually switch to Carson's dies, yeah?
take out those, you were taking out the heads on the end?
Yeah.
Use the straight dies and flatter, power hammer, and flatten that out like there. But, you know, if you're by yourself,
Yeah, these dies here and these dies, they've got such a sharp corner on them that I'll end up with just a stair step a little bit.
knock your corners off, you got
Yeah, I mean, I have flat dies like that, but I also have one that's got, it's a radius that's halfway between the flat and this one, which is really nice to keep it smooth as you taper it out. But I'm thinking about trying these here. Those round dies are the right radius, they're just round instead of rectangular. All right, so now I'm going to do a neck or a shoulder. might switch these dies out. Do you have gloves? Oh, you're hot. Just that brush. Is there a top and bottom of
It
these?
should be right there. That looks like the bottom.
Bottom. This place is so clean.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
It also looks like a mental hospital kitchen.
Also known as the cafeteria at school.
Don't ask me how I know that.
Yeah, we got it.
There, you got this one. What's that?
Bruce was saying there's no mark.
Ah. I think paint dries faster.
The metal needs.
All right. It makes me uneasy putting my hands in here.
Just don't hit that bar.
Yeah. I have a rule in my shop: never put. In my dies, you can change without having to put your hands in here. Do you want to check or turn the gas forge off?
Tools you got from home, did that include power hammer?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a Kuhn power hammer, a little 56 kg Kuhn, and when I bought Noel's shop, he had a Tom Clark Samac, and I sold the Kuhn to a friend. I kept both for a while, and I would have liked to have kept both, but I just don't have the shop space. Might be able to find a ratchet. They make an end that'll go on a ratchet. Would work real well. When I'm forging on my power hammer, a lot of the stuff I'm doing, I'm changing dies like boom, boom, boom all the time. So I use a wedge system.
Time is money.
Yeah. And I would like to have two power hammers so I can just set dies up on two. All right.
Good.
Yep. See if that helps any. haven't even got to the hard part yet, and I'm struggling. Both sets of dies want to kick off to the left. So I'm like trying to hold it.
Especially with the surrounding guys like that, you gotta have to go right in the center.
That is a much better radius though for this. That went a lot better. I'm tempted to go back and smooth up the front again, but I know I'll make it too thin, so I'm not going to do that. We'll be fine. We got to change the dies again too, which sucks. I'm going to attempt to do this next step with these dies. And if these dies aren't going to do it, I may have to put on Bruce's dies. All right, this next step that I'm going to attempt to do is to come out the side. I'm probably going to have to switch the dies. We'll give it a shot. It's going to try to spit it really bad. I need where'd that drop? There we go. No. I need a second pair of tongs to hold that. Okay. See, we're getting a banana. Does this forge always whistle?
It's that center one's burning a lot hotter.
Well, it's, yeah, the way the paint's burned off, I think the center one's, something's going on there. So you're getting flame back in the center one. Oh. I believe I'm going to switch to the old hand hammer because have a lot more control.
What size did you start off with your big league fish? What size?
1.25 inch round.
You ended up drawing the whole thing out a little longer? Did you
Yeah.
have to work on
No, I just drew it out.
it? I had to make sure each week.
With my hammer, it doesn't take that long. All right. Try this another way. There's more than one way to do it. I have done this before, I promise. Did it right there. All right. By the time it takes me to change the dies out to those full ring dies, I'll probably be done, so. You see what I'm doing? Pulling it out.
One thing if you watch the crew, all the time on this hammer, it's a long handle on the hammer, you load it from way in the back.
Sometimes I switch back to this rounding hammer. I used this hammer for many years before I switched to this cross peen, and I still like this radius for certain things, so I keep it with me. It's good to have softened face. You don't want it perfectly flat, but I don't want to round it this much either, so I use both of them. If this was a coal forge, I could do away with the tongs and hold that. But the gas heats up the bar too much. That's making it a little bit awkward. All right. Sorry, Joe, you don't have a camera on the anvil, do you? He does? Okay. It's actually pulling off real nicely. Just At home, with the dies that I have to do this, you can do that whole thing in one heat. But these are just a little bit not right. Can you help me with that? Oh, we can roll this out, right? There we go. Nope. Well, not sure what good that is doing. Not long enough. Oh boy. Hey, look there. Perfect. Thank you, Tom. Perfect. I see Joe's trying to set up his camera. Going to the anvil in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a little bit trickier when you get out on the tip to pull the side off. Basically like forging a knife. Basically what we're doing. See that? It's a lot harder when you get up here because you have to have good aim or you'll miss. It would be better if that vise wasn't there because I could go. It can be moved. Let's move it. You don't want to. When you're doing this, your hammer is striking and then glancing off the side. And you don't want to put dings in your anvil or dings in your hammer because either the hammer's going to ding or the anvil's, one or the other, or chip. So that's perfect. When I forge this, I'll typically line it up with the edge, or I think I'm more comfortable typically right here. And when I hit it, my hammer can glance off if it needs to. When you're doing leaves and stuff like this, you almost can't mess it up until maybe the last step or so. But, you know, if you push a little bit too much or here or there, you're just changing the shape of the leaf is all you're doing. It's all about the volume control. So you just end up with a different shape, different profile. Jesse had asked me about how much prep time I have, and I mentioned sales. I have a sales background, and I took that into my blacksmithing business when I started full-time. And it's very important to ask the right questions to new clients. And so I took all that I learned through my sales career and catered it to my blacksmith work, put it on a Word document. And it's basically a list of questions that you should ask every client before you start a new project. And I have that printed off for you guys, so I thought I would hand that out. actually sell these on my website for like $3 or something as a download, but I often hand them out for free when I'm doing a demo. If I have a client come to me, and if during the first conversation I can get them to sit down and take 20 minutes of their time and ask them all these questions, I have at least an 80% closing rate. And the key is in the questions. And all of them have to be answered. I have an 80% closing rate if they answer all the questions. And there's some tough questions on there, like what is your budget? Most people don't want to tell you. If they don't answer that question, I don't have an 80% closing rate. But if they answer all those questions, I do a really good job at meeting their needs. And it's not about trying to manipulate them into a sale. It's about me wanting to help them with what they need. So take those tips if you can use them. All right, here we go. I'm going to do it so you guys can see it. All right, switching to a flat face. Just kind of smooth it up. As I'm forging, this sharp edge gets ripply, and so that last pass is just to try to straighten those ripples out. Not too bad. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I had a choice to make a shorter leaf, and I made a great big long one. It's going to take me longer to put the teardrops in there. So you guys get a nice long leaf. Now I'm going to show you how to bring that spine into alignment. It's real simple. Just going to straighten this up. You can take a rounding hammer and just hit that in right there. Yeah, that lines that up. All right. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to soften the spine with my hand hammer right here. And then once I knock that first sharp edge off, I'll go in with the veining tool wherever it got to. Do I see it? Oh, there it is. Perfect. All right, real simple. I just knocked the corner off.
one luxury item. What do you consider a luxury item?
On my list of sales questions, I ask, what luxury item? There's a couple reasons for asking this. A lot of times when you price something to someone, it's over their budget, and then you can look for things to deduct. I won't deduct things that compromise the quality, but we can deduct certain design features or extras. So I like to ask, if I'm selling something, let's say I'm selling a table, what's a luxury item that you could add? It might be a matching set of chairs, okay? Or it might be the luxury item is that they get walnut instead of oak, because walnut's nicer. If you ask that, then if the time comes that you're over budget, that can be something that you can use as a discussion point for bringing the price down. After I ask what luxury item would you like, I ask them, if the price is too much, what would you like to take off? And a lot of times they'll start with the luxury item and then they'll throw in something else. So it's just helpful to get all that stuff right in the beginning. All right, this is getting hot. All right, so I'm going to go over to the treadle hammer here. Fortunately, I have the same treadle hammer at home. Just doing real soft blows, especially at the beginning. Taking my time here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but you can see where I started the fuller. I don't hit too hard because otherwise that, that thing's only 3/4 inches square, that punch. And if I hit too hard, it'll stair step on me. So I'm just kind of, what's Alan Kress say? Baby bites or
Feed the baby.
feed the baby? Yeah. Jesse, I think you can help me on this. Once it's hot, I'll have you hold the piece, and I'm going to hold the punch and hit it with a hammer. I'm just trying to keep Joe on his toes, moving around.
Come in here.
Yeah, we're kind of coded it.
You want to step that way?
Yeah, that works. Here, let me spin this out. All right, you can go ahead and pull it out. Okay. Done with that part. All right. So I actually made this in reverse, so it's a good thing I have 2 teardrop punches. This will be fun. Thank you, Jesse. All right, now I'm going to go in and start putting the teardrops in. No, I'm not. I missed a step. Forgot about this guy. All right. Notice how I make sure my tool is in the right spot before I step on this thing. It's real easy to have an errant blow if you're trying to rush. All right. Got a wire brush? There we are. Let's see what we're getting. You need your little sign. Save that for Caitlin. It's a little bit choppier than I'd like, so I'm going to go back through one more time and clean it up a little bit. Oh yeah, very cool. I just brushed it so you could see it a little bit better. Even if I'm doing a demo like this, I try not to cut corners because you never know who's going to see your work. Somebody's going to ask, oh, who made that? Well, Drew Alexander made it. All right. I want to make sure I do a good job, you know. I want it to be at least saleable. All right. Second pass is always a lot quicker. Not too bad. much better definition now. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and straighten it nice and straight so that it's easier to put my teardrops in. I have a list of mantras and quotes that I have memorized, and I have them written on the walls of my shop and in my office. And I thought you guys might like them, so I put them all in one spot and printed them off. My working definition of blacksmithing is manipulating iron in its plastic state. And an artist blacksmith is somebody who's an artist at heart, chooses blacksmithing as their discipline. If I wasn't doing blacksmithing, I'd be painting or writing, doing woodworking. All right. Time for the teardrops. Wrong hands. Tell you what. You guys see how much that's wiggling, the hammer? Hammer's got a lot of wobble in it, so I'm gonna have Jesse help me with the sledgehammer. I think it'll actually go faster with him.
Those that aren't aware of, you're looking at tag teams that won the contest with the anniversary of battle.
We were the only ones that entered. No.
Tell them the story about how you came to be a team.
Oh, well, I wanted to do it, and Jesse wanted to do it. We decided to partner up. Yeah. The night before, yeah. And we had no tools, and Jesse had tools. I didn't have any tools. I think I brought my hammer, and that was it. And yeah, somehow we pulled off first place, and I was shocked because I didn't think we had the nicest piece, but I guess they thought it fit the criteria best. All right, you ready? After that, I asked him to do another contest with me, and he said no. So I think...
How sober was the freaking hurricane?
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was because I was bossing you around the whole time. I think that's part of it. All right. All right. All right. I'm gonna.
You drinking this morning? What's going on?
Let me have the orange soda.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
I'll bring you another one. They're small. Anybody?
All right. I think I'm gonna switch hands. The reason this does this is there's a little nipple that's threaded in there, and sometimes they get off center just a tiny little bit. That's what I've found in mine. If you can bring all three of these into center with the nipples, or the nipple can be bad, it can be clogged, or actually, if your liner is off alignment or clogged, because that soft lining can block the hole. If somebody jams something in there, that could be pushing the pressure back. A lot of times those lining kits, the hole will be off center by 1/4 of an inch, and that'll cause this. All right. I'd like to stay on this side. Why don't you maybe stand over there? All right. And we don't want to go too deep, so just keep that in mind. You guys can see, getting them started. This is not a cheap floral element. I mean, I think I priced $150 a piece when I priced this job, so it takes time. But if the client will pay you for your time, then you can do challenging or more time-consuming projects.
You also said about it, 15 minutes to talk about the project. Normally take 15 minutes or?
No. Yeah, when I ask somebody if they have time to talk about their project, I usually ask for 15 minutes, but on average they go 30 to 45 minutes conversations. I've had 2-hour talks. If somebody will give you 15 minutes, most of the time they'll give you 30. But if you ask somebody, hey, do you have 45 minutes to talk? They're like, 45 minutes? What are we going to talk about? And if somebody doesn't have time to talk, then I'll postpone. Say, well, let's do it when you have time, instead of rushing through it. All right, you ready? I want to get these a little bit closer together so we can just kind of take our time. Okay. Sorry. An hour. Yeah. I did that one in an hour. Yeah. Well, actually, I think this one took me an hour and a half, but it was my first one. And so now they're about an hour. Yeah. This one takes a lot longer, the double-sided one, wherever it got to, it's over there. That takes an extra hour. That's like a 2-hour leaf right there. Actually, I can pass this around. This particular punch is difficult to hold. It's part of my problem.
But that's it.
almost there. All right, you ready? Hot. All right. My hand's open too far. We're almost done, so just like 3 more heats, I think. Okay. Try. These work. Problem is that I didn't make this punch. Punch is tapered, so it's driving it out. Let's try this.
Just a fraction.
If you guys smell burning skin, it's okay. It's just me. Ugh.
Are you still doing arm wrestling competitions?
Not really. I took a break. Yeah. I saw too many injuries.
Especially since your arms are your livelihood.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna deepen these back ones. There. Just show you guys where we're at right now. Just trying to clean those up and deepen them a little bit. It's really not bowing that far. I think we're going to do one more pass. When you're intimidated, somebody asks you to try something new project, it's outside your comfort zone. My motto is say yes first, then figure it out, because you'll never learn anything new. You can borrow tools, you can rent tools, you can get the client to pay for the materials up front, you can rent somebody else's blacksmith shop. So you don't, if you don't have all the skills, you can figure it out with a long enough timeline. So say yes first and then figure it out. That motto, when I first heard it, that's kind of why I started taking on bigger stuff, because I used to really be intimidated by bigger projects. Back here. A little bit more. Okay. I think it's important to do hard things. Do hard things in our lives, especially in our blacksmithing. I like this quote from David Bowie. If you feel safe in the area that you're working in, step out into deeper water. When you feel like your feet aren't quite touching the bottom, then you're about to do something exciting. And I can tell you, this last project that I just finished, I got to a point where I was thinking like, what if I didn't finish and just walked away? I mean, how big would the lawsuit be? Like, it was, I got really intimidated, especially in the last half of the job. I just kept running into problems and feeling like I'm never going to finish this thing. But I wouldn't have the pictures in my gallery and the recommendations that are going to come from that client for more future projects. So it's important to step outside of your comfort zone. Here's where we're at.
One of the things I've tried to promote in the past was create a portfolio of your work so you can show people what you do. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Portfolio. I've got 2 scrapbooks there. You guys are welcome to look in. One is like baby photos, baby blacksmith photos. Literally. It's from when I drew this first hammer, drew in the first newspaper article, all the way up before the beard. And then the other is more photographs. It's got a lot of projects up to about a year and a half ago. I haven't updated that. But yeah, it's important
It's good to see your
to
progress.
start a portfolio.
For yourself to see your progress.
That's right.
For your clients to see what you can do.
I look at some of my early pictures and I'm like, man, did I do that? So you guys can see where we're at now. And whoever's got that leaf that I passed around, is it over here? If you notice there's something missing yet, I'll try not to drop this on you, Lisa. You see the little notches on the edge? Can you guys see that? Yeah, we're flipped. But right here on this edge, you can see it looks like it's serrated, like a serration. And that's really important because what that's doing is it's isolating the different lobes that we created. So I'm going to show you how to go in and put those in. I call this a fish mouth. Usually fish mouth is bad, but not when it comes to a fish mouth punch. And this is what we'll use to put that notch in. Get it? No, I'll do this by hand in that vise. I brought aluminum jaws. I wasn't sure if you guys would have any. recommend aluminum jaws for doing this. Don't need that. I do need a leather glove. Do you have any around here? I forgot mine. Leather glove. I could go out to my truck, I guess. Just one. Blacksmiths only need a left-handed glove. The right hands don't need them. Take all those right-hand gloves, put them in a box, put them in iron in the hat. Some left-hander will want them. All right. All right. You want me to wait on you? I'm waiting on this to get to the perfect temperature for Joe's camera. All right. There we go. Whoa, slippery. See that? All right. On the next pass, I'll flip this around because you guys can't see what I'm doing. All right, so the aluminum jaws, I did not deform the spine that I was clamping on. And you guys can see the notches versus the top. Yeah, it makes really makes it pop. It takes it from intermediate to upper intermediate.
Next up.
That's how the leak is naturally? Kind of?
Kind of. I mean, it's like I told the client, right? I drew a picture of this grass, right? And in a 2-foot section, I had 7 blades of grass. Well, you build a 2-inch wooden frame and take it out into a field of Indian grass. How many pieces of grass are you going to have in a straight line across 2 feet? Probably like 150 blades of grass. So we're trying to create an impression of grass where people look at it, oh, that's grass. But it's nowhere near the actual size of grass. Otherwise, it'd be, you know, how many thousands thick and, right, it'd be bendy. So if I tried to make the flower of the grass accurate, I'd be using little tiny wires, and then some kid would come along and poke his eye out or bend them back and forth. So I want this to be strong and look like a grass flower, kind of, but I don't want it to be so thin that you cut yourself on it or you can bend it around. So it's difficult balance, really. And there's about half a dozen different ways I could have used to make a grass flower. Could have done a sheet metal relief form. Could have just cut the profile out with a plasma cutter, called it good. A lot of different ways to do it. Yeah, I asked on Facebook if anybody done a grass flower before, and I got 2, maybe 3 recommendations. The best one was Fred Christ. He sent me a picture of back up a little bit. wheat is pretty common because it's easy to do. And you've got some wheat over there, but wheat didn't look like what the client wanted. Then I thought about the Metzger books, the paperback books from German blacksmith Metzger. He had some relief similar to like the acanthus leaf over here. And then Fred Chris sent me a grass flower that he forged that was similar to this acanthus leaf. I have pictures on my phone if anybody wants to see it. So I kind of took those as inspiration and came up with my own. This is my own thing. I already had the punches, so that made it easy. All right, other side. Down around the rosy.
You even have the tooling that you use now?
Yeah, this is all just recycled tooling
From other projects.
Do we have a bucket of water? No? It's all right. You can kind of. I'll need it. I will need it at the end, so. This really clean shop space reminds me of something my boss used to say when I was a teenager and I was in construction. We had a mill shop, and I like to work in clean spaces, and my boss would always say, "There's no livestock in a clean stable." Which means if you spend all your time cleaning, son, you're not going to make any money. And I would often spend way too much time cleaning, even at home in my own shop. I'll get some idea, and I'll end up 3 days will go by because I wanted to move a table from here to over here. And well, yeah, I got to move the bookshelf, and now you got to move the drill press, and now you got to move the anvil, and you just work yourself into a big circle, and you don't get anywhere. Another quote that goes with that: "The still sow drinks the slop." Still sow drinks the slop. If you're so busy looking around for new things to do, you're not going to eat the meal that's in front of you. So the pig that stays in one spot gets to eat the most. Anyway, a lot of fun quotes. I'm going to pass these around for you guys. Both of those quotes came from a book. I asked my boss last summer, I called him, and he told me this 20 years ago, and I said, "Where did that quote come from?" And when he told me, it just so happened that I had the book. It's The Appalachian Photographs of Earl Palmer. It's a great book. It's a book about Appalachian lifestyle, philosophy. All right, here we go. I like to drop things on the floor because it saves time. It saves a lot of time. You think about all the time you spend trying to find some place to set things on. You got a 500 square foot table under your feet. Well, I want to grab that so bad. We're going to quench it now, and then I'm going to go back in. I think probably 1 to 2 more heats, and we'll be wrapped up here. We've got to put our curve in it.
Who the hell is that?
Yeah. It's not as hot as I thought it was. But not sure what's melting. All right. Now we're going to give it a little life and flourish. These quotes are just things that I've curated, things that stuck with me through the years. You know, they may not mean anything to you, but I like them. There's even one in there from my mom.
There you go. Give mom a shout out. How many years were you with Noel High School?
I never worked for Noel or worked under Noel. Noel and I were friends, and he gave me advice over. I mean, I met Noel in 2006, but we didn't start becoming friends until I think 2015. So I wish I had had more time with him. But somewhere around 2015, we started like corresponding via email and phone calls because I was really getting heavy into my craft, and when I had questions, I would call him, and then I started going up to his shop and visiting. But I was never an employee of Noel's.
How'd you get introduced?
I met Noel at the Dan Boone pasture party.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna, I think, forge this out here. My first experience with blacksmithing, I'll never forget. It was I'd never even seen a blacksmith before, but in the fall of 2001, it was a month after 9/11. We went to a fall festival in Edinburgh, Virginia, and I met a man named Bill Moss, who's passed away. He was a blacksmith in Shenandoah County, Virginia, and I would not leave. He was doing blacksmithing demonstrations at this fall festival, and I just planted myself there all day and watched. That was my first experience. And shortly after that, I found about a volunteer position at the Frontier Culture Museum, Stanton, and started working there. And I did that for 2 years. Put a little bit better point on there.
How often do you keep going back looking at the picture when you're making it?
What I'm doing what?
When you're like doing a floral design such as this, how often do you go back and look at the picture?
My picture?
Back.
I don't stay super true to the drawings that I do. They're more of a guide. There's some things that are important to stay true to, like proportion. You know, I use golden ratio for proportions and inches a lot. So I like to work with, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13 inches. Like to have 5 leaves instead of 4, things like that. So I pay attention to those things. But a lot of times when I draw something full scale and then I go and I start laying it out, I'll make changes to it. Now, it'd be nice if we had is there a big swage block? This'll probably work. Yeah, they're buried, so yeah, it's not worth it. At home, one of my swage blocks, the edge has a big swoop, and I'll profile this leaf, but I think we can handle it without that. If I need to see how that's got a wiggle in it? If I want to take that out, I can hit it from the back. Without distorting anything. Closer. I'm going to put my touch mark on there so people know to stay away from it. You can help me with my touch mark. How many of you guys typically forage with stock that's larger than 5/8 of an inch? Ted, Bob, Tom. Tom's done some really big stuff. I'd encourage you to try if you've never forged bigger stuff. Helps if you have a power hammer, of course, but there are some benefits. You've got more time to correct mistakes. You can take a few errant blows and recover from it. All right, you ready? Sledgehammer. Give me a second. All right. Watch my fingers. Okay. 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 Beautiful.
Why do you put the year on
What's that?
it? Why do you put the year on
I don't know. I don't put the year on everything, but sometimes it's nice to look back and know when it was made. The water helps a lot with these dimples because it gets down in those little dimples and pops the scale right off. Of course, now I have to be careful not to slip and fall. Put a little magic highlight on there.
Y'all done with the wood picture?
What's
Y'all
it?
done with the porch?
I think so.
Van.
Go. These brass brushes are great for showing shadows because it's just highlighting the upper layer. See that? Oh my goodness. Thank you. I reckon it's acceptable to go in a gate somewhere, maybe. Could be worse.
So are you keeping that or you doing